You're looking good. You who are 3 steps above average. This is Kendall Bryan Hunter. I'm author of the book Consider My Servant Job. And this is, well, right there, Christmas gift, subliminal programming. And this is the Eyes of Faith podcast, where I talk about events, things from the perspective of faith. So today's lead story is the Charlie Kirk effect. Now, to be honest, I don't want to come across being a poser or a wannabe. I was not a follower of Charlie Kirk. I wasn't quite his demographic. I knew he was coming to Utah, him and his organization, and as a taxpayer, I thought, yeah, this is absolutely proper. Get someone in here to make comments at a university. This isn't a monastery. This is a university. He was speaking at a university. He wasn't speaking at a church, mosque, or synagogue, or a monastery, but a university. And yes, it was very shocking. Part of the reason why security was so lax is that you wouldn't think there'd be an assassination attempt in Orem. Not on anyone's radar, but tragically it happened. I happened to be at work. I work at a hospital, and I was at work that day, and yes, I work at a hospital, and they put the hospital under lockdown. Now, at the time, I thought it was really silly because, look, you have this in another city where you're putting us under lockdown. I was not aware that the shooter was still at large, and you consider with a hospital, yeah, that'd actually be a proper thing to do because of the nature of what you're doing at a hospital. You have to be extra careful about stuff there. So I felt like that was the right decision, and I'd endorse that. So Charlie Kirk, never heard of him, and son of a gun. Everyone at work suddenly was following him, and I was really in the dark about this. It had an effect upon me. I went to Utah Valley University once they reopened it, and okay, I just got a notice about some prescriptions coming in. They're a little bit late. I have to go there once I'm done podcasting. So let me get the picture up. So I went to Utah Valley University to pay his respects. I was grateful for the people there. People from the Billy Graham Evangelical Association were there. I didn't get a chance to talk with them. I passed them. I was going to double back around and talk with them. I just missed them. You understand how these things go. Some of these things don't quite work out. But certainly I have to admit that is death had an effect upon me. And as I've studied this, what's gone on with him and in his life and what he did, it was certainly it had a transforming effect upon me. Anytime someone that you support shares your political views gets killed, of course it's going to make a difference. Let's see, I thought I had it here. Sorry, it's not on this. I guess it was on another device. I took the picture, maybe my tablet, so which is in use right now. But certainly I went there, paid my respects. But what effect has his death had upon you? What is Charlie Kirk? Now they've been offering this a copy of one of his books. I donated to his organization. They certainly work to promote the values and policies I hold up, broad-based. Now, narrowly, you get some sort of this fine-tuning. Of course, there's going to be differences. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But broad brush, it's an organization I can support. But, I want you to think about Charlie Kirk's skill set. First, organizing, networking, and outreach. Organizing, network, and outreach. He started Turning Point USA when he was 18. Now, he had a mentor. This is a good life skill. Bill Montgomery. He worked with him when he was 18, and so you certainly don't have the networking. That's something I always wondered about with Barack Obama. George W. Bush had his father's network. John F. Kennedy had his grandfather's network, the Kennedy Network. Joe Biden certainly was able to build up a network over the decades. Where did Barack Obama's network come from? At 18, so he had his mentor, Bill Montgomery. A very interesting skill he had was gathering talent. That's something that I do not have, to sniff out who's a good person, weeding people in, weeding people out, attracting talented people who could be famous in their own right but want to work with you. Brett Cooper's a good one. She worked with the Daily Wire, then sprung out on her own. And when you have an organization like that, people leave. Glenn Beck has been had his mentor, Bill O'Reilly, and then he in turn has been a mentor to other people. So organizing, that's an interesting, get these university chapters, that's a good skill set. Networking, two people he met with, one was Rush Limbaugh. It's interesting, he had this clip of Rush Limbaugh talking about when he met with Charlie Kirk. And they could sense, yeah, this is a kid who has a talent, he has a skill set, he has the right vibe, he's going somewhere. Larry Arnn of Hillsdale College talked about meeting him, and apparently that's where Charlie Kirk got a lot of his information was from the Hillsdale College courses. So he wasn't degreed, but he certainly was educated, and that's interesting how we're shifting away from degrees to certificates, and he's certainly certified. Last thing was Charlie Kirk's outreach. He modeled it something a bit like Campus Crusade for Christ, or what they go by now, Cru. That's funny because Cru sounds like crude and it means raw in Portuguese, but Campus Crusade for Christ, Cru, these organizations that go to campus and try to educate people. Remember, he got shot when he had one of these prove me wrong debates where he was dialoguing with people. People on the left always say, we need to have a conversation. We need to have, in the NPR voice, we need to have a conversation. And that's what Charlie Kirk was doing when he got killed. Can you put those two ideas together? We need to have a conversation. You're killing him. Not all of you, of course. There's been plenty of people who denounce extremism. I'm grateful for it. But there are those fringe elements that are in every organization. It's not something localized to the left. It's certainly not localized to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But he dialogued with people. It's interesting because you don't have his early stuff where he probably made a lot of mistakes. But over time, you do the watch instant replays and form better answers, and he got very good at it. It's labor intensive. You need the mixture of knowledge and wisdom when you're answering these type of questions. So that's my observation about Charlie Kirk, organizing, networking, and his outreach. So here we have the news blips moving on. I front load these because I know people tune out really quickly. So if you're at here, thank you for staying. At some point I can monetize this and make this better. So death. One that got me was Gil Gerard. He was our generation's Buck Rogers. Now, interesting, I was fortunate enough to see Buster Crabs, Flash Gordon, and Buck Rogers. So Buster Crabs, part of my mythology, is the same way with George Reeves. But yeah, Gil Gerard, he's one I'd, when I was in elementary school, he was one I'd watch. But Gil Gerard, a confident white male heterosexual hero. You don't see those anymore. These girl bosses running amok. There's a post on his Facebook page, and it was from his wife. I'll read it. This is Janet Gerard, Gil's wife. Just to clarify, I was by his side when my husband passed away this morning in hospice care. Below is the message he left. Here's Gil's message. If you are reading this, then Janet has posted it as I asked her to. My life has been an amazing journey. The opportunities I've had, the people I've met, and the love I've given and received have made my 82 years on the planet deeply satisfying. My journey has taken me from Arkansas to New York to Los Angeles and flying to my home in North Georgia with my amazing wife Janet of 18 years. It's been a great ride, but inevitably one that comes to a close, as mine has. Don't waste your time at anything that doesn't thrill you or bring you love. See you out there and somewhere in the cosmos. Beady, beady, beady. So long, Buck. And, of course, Rob Reiner's death. That's tragic, sick, and shocking. The domestic elements, an addicted son, was the parents cutting off the drug money, and did he retaliate? We don't know. It's curious, it's perverse, it's a bit like O.J. Simpson. It catches our attentions. It reminded me of the Charles Manson murders. So sympathy out for his family. His work, The Princess Bride, will live forever. Quotable quotables. I'm not going to say inconceivable. That's not an appropriate joke right now. But it's Rob Reiner. Start it all in the family. We'll not call him meathead. Won't say inconceivable. sympathies to his family. I hope things work out for the best for everyone, that the son gets the help he needs. Trump's comment. I won't comment. That's not the route I'd go. I'm serious about turning the other cheek. You remember Trump said this at Charlie Kirk's funeral, that Charlie Kirk forgave people and he didn't. So forgive him his trespass and his shortcoming. So, in effort to bring something fair and balanced, just to get the full picture, I had two chatbots, Grok and the Gemini, research Rob Reiner's tweets and his posts and comments. So from Gemini, Rob Reiner called Donald Trump a mentally ill sociopath, mentioned he's a convicted felon. That's factually correct. Choose between a good, decent man and a convicted felon who will destroy our democracy, criminal and traitor, adjudicated sex offender. That's Trump, not Bill Clinton, just for clarification there. Adjudicated sex offender, mentally unfit, racist, unqualified. Quote, the single most unqualified human being ever to assume the presidency of the United States. Well, I've read biographies of every single president of the United States, and that's an interesting academic debate. Autocrat. Trump's re-election would turn us into an autocracy, and that democracy completely leaves us. Lies every minute, controlled by Russia. Even Snopes disavows that. Now, here's what Grok said. Now, remember, there's going to be might be some bias there. Donald Trump is a narcissistic, misogynistic racist. He's a pathological liar. We can't let him anywhere near the White House. From the Hill. Your comments about Judge Curiel were not misconstrued. Racism is racism. The Wrap. Trump stiffs his workers, cheats his contractors, sues his employees. Enough is enough. Stop the lying. Fraud. The Wrap. Donald Trump is the single most unqualified human being ever to assume the presidency of the United States. He's mentally unfit. Not only does he not understand how government works, he has no interest in trying to find out how it works. From The Independent. Right now, we've got this battle of the soul, whether democracy survives. What is true and what is not true. That's very scary here in this country. The Independent. Trump is mentally unfit to be president. Newsweek. Accused Trump of treason and political. You have one candidate, Trump, who actually tells you he's going to govern like an authoritarian. Do we want fascism, or do you want to continue the 248 years of self-rule? Do you want to continue democracy, or do you want to fall into fascism? TheIndependent.com. Trump is a criminal who basically lies every minute of his life. Newsweek. There's some repetition here, but that'll reinforce things. Trump is like a zombie or a cockroach. Sorry, I didn't get the source for that. So as the story rounded out a bit. Now, don't get into the shiz and coriander dichotomy. Both things are inappropriate. Both things are toxic speaking. And don't get this, Trump has to be held to a higher standard. There's only one standard. When you read the Law of Moses, you always have one standard for a Jew and one standard for a Gentile. There's no double standards there. Shootings. At Christmas, Brown University on Saturday, December 13th, 2025, a gunman opened fire at a classroom at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, killing 2 students and wounding 9 others. As of December 17th, 2025, the suspect remains at large. Well, they caught him. This is a little bit out of date. So that's the caution. The lesser that's a caution you have with chatbots. Found in a storage unit. Ella Cook, the vice president of the Republican Club, was tragically killed. Does it feel like we're being hunted? On December 14th, 2025, a mass shooting occurred during a Hanukkah celebration at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, resulting in the deaths of 15 people. And of course, the Australians are going to solve this by rounding up guns. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. You remember what the Book of Mormon says about mocking the Jews. They took guns away in the United Kingdom. Now they have stabbing problems. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen in Australia. No. Will not happen. It can't happen. I just feel like it won't happen. Go to I think it's the BBC. They have a section on stabbing deaths in the United Kingdom. Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan guilty of a federal felony of obstructing an immigrant arrest. Republican leaders, including Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, have called for her immediate resignation or face impeachment, citing the state constitution ban on felons holding office. Turning Point USA's America Fest. This event in Phoenix highlighted deep tensions within the movement following the assassination of founder Charlie Kirk earlier this year. Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson shared the stage but offered vastly different visions. Shapiro criticized what he termed conspiracism and grievance, while others focused on pragmatic economic populism. They feel the base of it is demanding. Erica Kirk, CEO of Turning Point USA, officially endorsed Vice President J.D. Vance for the 2028 presidency during America Fest. That's interesting. To be honest with you, I'd actually go with Ted Cruz as president over J.D. Vance. However, a Vance-Cruz ticket would work because we're going to go up against Gavin Newsom and AOC, presumably. But here's the thing about this. We see the debate. First of all, this is what happens when you get a big tent. You get big disagreements. Big tents mean big disagreements. The warm body in a room. Sorry, I'm drinking while podcasting. The second thing, notice the diversity on the right. We're having a conversation. We're the ones talking about things. We're not the conformity. We're not falling in line. We are having this debate now. Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, they believe things that I don't believe in, and I speak out against them. You love them as people. Understand that their ideas can change. They can. This isn't flip-flopping. This is improving your decisions based on better information. So you love them, you care about them, you admit that you disagree with them, and you try to persuade them using Section 121 principles. The Senate passed a $901 billion defense bill. That's government's job, is defense. You don't have defense, you don't have a country. 3.8% pay raise for troops. Bans a diversity program. And you saw in President Trump's broadcast 1776 to the servicemen and servicewoman. Yeah, they need it. Wounded Warriors Project. There's paralyzed veterans. Yeah, there's some. You got some extra Christmas money lying around. Do a quick donation to those. Now, 1776 dollars. Of course, it's not Nancy Pelosi level, but we're grateful. The Senate utilized nuclear rules to confirm nearly 100 administration nominees in a single week to ensure that the executive branch is fully staffed for 2026. Hey, we got our government back again. Epstein files. Okay, Epstein files. Everything incriminating has been scrubbed. You remember Hillary Clinton's hard drive? Male bashing blast report. Two unrelated stories. This is KSL had an article, Untapped Potential, Salt Lake restaurateur running Culinary Institute to help immigrant woman. Perspective, this is from Deseret News. Why Latter-day Saint women are everywhere. How life in the Church of Jesus Christ sets women up for success by Megan Kohler. Thank you, Megan. New York Times recently claimed that Latter-day Saint women are taking over our screens, dominating reality TV, social media influence, and entrepreneurial ventures. Nearly half of this season's Dancing with the Stars professionals were raised in the church. Half of them. You want me to leave the church, make me do dancing. You can make ballroom dancing a gospel requirement. Yeah, I'm out the door. And that's what we call a joke. Secret Life of more incorrect name of the church wives are landing Broadway roles, book deals, and millions of followers. This presents a puzzle. How does an institution frequently criticized as patriarchal and restrictive produce such a disproportionate number of visible, successful, entrepreneurial women? That's it. Swallow it. So 100% about that. When you see an article about female members of the church, what's the assumption about male members? Now think about that. But when she hits with the paradox, say we're oppressing women, but they're so successful. Part of it has to come from our church. We have other churches have ordained and unordained. We have ordained, set apart, and unordained. So I have this extra category. Part of the problem is people try and shoehorn the world's model or the model of ecclesia general, Christendom, into how we do things, and it's not working. That's where the confusion comes in. So we have ordained, set apart, and unordained, which is a different model. But what's the biblical family model? what are the divine roles of woman? What are the divine roles of men? And if we're just talking about one, or we're getting the complete story. So this leads to a talk that Quentin L. Cook gave in April 2011. And now, first of all, before I go on, you can help women without being a male basher. But are women getting what's happening to men in the process? Well, I'm going to talk about that a little bit with all this favored attention towards women who are members of the church. So let's go to this Quentin L. Cook talk. Sorry, this is a bad segue. I'm being a little bit sloppy here. April 2011. LDS women are incredible. When I was in New Zealand last year, I read an Auckland newspaper, said Quentin L. Cook, of newspaper of woman, not of our, an Auckland newspaper of woman, not of our faith, struggling with these issues. One mother said she realized that in her case, her choice about whether to work or stay home was about a new carpet and a second car she didn't really need. I was talking to a friend of mine about law school, and sometimes women go to law. People go to law school not with the intention to become a lawyer, but sort of a personal thing. Steve Young is a good example of this, just as a personal accomplishment. Get the doctorate thing after your name, and I'm actually someone I'd be willing to do that. But what happens to the women who go to law school, who get the degree and are not using it, to the men who have this divine role of men to become providers? They don't get into law school. What happens to them? Okay. Now, back to Quentin L. Cook. There are two principles that we should keep in mind. First, no woman shall ever feel the need to apologize or feel that her contribution is less significant because she is devoting her primary effort to raising and nurturing children. Second, we should all be careful not to be judgmental or assume that sisters are less valiant if a decision is made to work outside the home. We rarely understand and fully appreciate people's circumstances. And that's a principle from the Family Proclamation. Individual adaptation may be necessary. But it kind of raises the question, when you study the broader trends, how men are being marginalized. We're being selected against. President Hinckley talked about that in the General Conference, how men aren't getting higher education. Now, some of it's sort of the Mike Rowe effect, where men are getting the blue-collar jobs and making decent money, being welders and diesel mechanics. Look, you get a job as a diesel mechanic or a welder, you can work anywhere you want. You can live anywhere. It's a bit like being a teacher or a lawyer. You're just not really stuck in one place. But this is what President Kimball said. This is Teachings of Spencer W. Kimball, not the manual, but the book by Bookcraft, 361. Said President Kimball, if a few million of the working mothers who need not work were to go home to their families, there might be employment for men now unemployed, and part and full-time work for youth who ought to be helping family finances who need the occupation for their abundant energy. So it's not just about men, but he's describing the displacement effect. Which I said with law school is that if you're more women going to law school than men, which is the case at BYU Law School, J. Reuben Clark Law School, first of all, they're intentionally selecting against men to get that statistic up. But what happens to the men who get displaced? Well, go to another university. Well, what if it's going on at all the universities? This is a broader cultural trend. Now, they might get into some of the other universities. You get to a smaller university, someone who's mid-level at BYU may become top-level at a smaller law school. But eventually, men are still slipping through the cracks when that happens. And what happens when the men have to read the Family Proclamation about being a provider, when their wife has a PhD or the JD, and they just have a master's degree? What's happening to the men there? And is it treason to talk about it? That's part of the Trump effect, that we're raising these issues. Has this gone too far? If men are being hurt, has this gender equity, gender equality, has it gone too far? So that quote from President Kimball, first of all, that's not the only thing he said, but he did say it, so it stands on its own. And here's some of the books I've read. This hits me. Christina Hoff Sommers, War Against Boys. Leonard Sachs' book, Boys Adrift. Paul Nathanson and Catherine K. Young. These are two scholars out of Canada. And remember, Canadians are terribly nice people. Emphasis on terribly nice people. Serious, spreading misandry, the teaching of contempt for men in popular culture. Legalizing misandry, a very thick book, from public shame to systemic discrimination against men. Replacing misandry, a revolutionary history of men. Sanctifying misandry, goddess ideology and the fall of man. This is Mistelling Eden. Katie O'Byrne, Women Who Make the World Worse and How Their Radical Feminist Assault is Ruining Our Schools, Family, Military, and Sports. That was published back in 2006, before the transgender movement. Okay, the reason why the transgender movement has taken off is because once you get gay marriage, what's the next issue? Gay marriage is the tip of the wedge, so we're pushing the wedge in deeper. So we're just getting the sledgehammer, that's it. And what's next after transgenderism? Okay, is this slippery slope? But pay attention to the historical trend. Is this confirmation bias? Or are you in denial? Is it confirmation bias or denial? Rachel Simmons, Odd Girl Out, the hidden culture of female aggression. That one was an interesting read. Women with sharp tongues, with their sharp tongues stabbing each other, woman in the back. So we're at half an hour. Let's wrap this up with Life Some Pointers. Now, I'm surprised. I like how this is actually one of my best podcasts with the Life Some Pointers. So I'm going to do a third episode for the next one for that time in between Christmas and New Year's. But for this episode, just do one Life Some Pointers. What do you do when a coworker is getting divorced? That sort of happened in waves at work. About 5 years ago, we had a bunch of people getting divorced, and now we divorced, breaking off relationships. So 3 points. So if your coworker is getting divorced, 1, don't be nosy. 2, be a good listener. 3, people are not mixed up Rubik's Cubes. So just don't tell them what to do. Just say thank you and just let them talk and realize things are going to go a little bit rough. One of the ladies I work with is going through, one of my direct colleagues, and so I go out of my way to try and help her here and there, just to make things go a little bit smoothly with her. Actually had to step on her toes a little bit a couple last Friday, but it was something I had to do. It's just I'm sorry I have to do this, but I tried to make it up by helping her out a little bit later. So your coworker's getting divorced. Don't be nosy. Be a good listener, and people not mixed up Rubik's Cube. Here's the E-Chapel, the E-Devotional. Let me close with a spiritual thought. If you made it this far, thank you. Christmas. This is a season, a time of death, but also birth and rebirth. Christmas, death, birth, and rebirth. Death over the years. If you've heard this, you survived. Trump survived. Charlie Kirk. It's interesting. His last name Kirk is Scottish for church. Charlie Kirk didn't. These shootings that have gone on, the anti-Semitism going on, war, the death, season of death. That's also a season of birth, the miracle of creation, the anti-miracle of the fall, and the miracle of the incarnation and virgin birth. And what are you doing with your rebirth? If you've come unto Christ, entered into the new and everlasting covenant, come to Zion, what are you doing with your new birth? It's going to get stuck in the same rut next year. Same thing, just rolling downhill, being a revolving door or an escalator. Just going back and forth, going in circles with your life? Or is this the time to just make one small incremental change? Remember, don't make a big comprehensive change. Have a comprehensive view of things, but make a small incremental change. Okay, what's one thing you're going to do differently? Set up that temple recommend appointment on the first of the month. Send a text to your families. Have a copy of the scriptures right by your bed so you don't have to hunt for them, so it's easier for you to read. Just go to DI or get a new set of scriptures so it's right there, so you're not going to get distracted by phones stuff. What are you doing with it? This has been a year of death. Shootings, Charlie Kirk, of course. I don't want to run that into the ground, but it is a local incident. I like to quote from the Gettysburg Address when we think about the friends and the people who have died. Kirk, Rob Reiner, people in Ukraine, the shootings that have gone on. And in the Gettysburg Address, President Lincoln talked about the dead. He said, "It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us." that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth. And that's why we have Lincoln on everything, from our money to our cars. Think about that. That's uplifting, because there is risk involved. And I don't want to pop this emotional bubble, but once the Democrats regain power, the presidency and the Congress, what's going to happen to us? Just think about that. The dead who gave their gave their last full measure of devotion, increased devotion from the dead who gave their last full measure of devotion. This new birth of freedom, not politically, but also spiritually in Christ. Thank you, and have a Merry Christmas. Christmas is always safe here. And that's the passing scene with the eyes of faith.